Listen up, you gamblers. This is the video for you.
Welcome to Full Court Press. This is where we ask the pressing questions going around the NBA. I'm joined by Charlie and Fatmir, and today is another video of over and under Southeast Division. The Southeast Division is also one of the weakest divisions in basketball, and they had a team that went to the finals within the past 4 years a couple times now, and we're going to start off right away with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat betting odds are 45.5 games this year. Personally, I think that's a good amount just because you never know with the Heat with injuries and if Jimmy wants to play in the regular season or not. But I'm going to take the over on the Heat. Their division is weak. They're going to play a lot of these teams often. I think they're going to get some wins there. Plus, they've proven that they can hang with the best teams in the East as well. And I don't think any of that's going to change. I think with the fact that Dame didn't end up in Miami, Jimmy's more pissed off. I mean, we saw what he looked like on media day. So I'm taking the over on the Heat. I think it's going to be an easy over as well. For whatever reason, they struggled last year, but then they turned it up in the playoffs. I think this year they're going to try to make more of a statement.
This one's a tough one because the past 2 years they've kind of been like out mid, for lack of a better word. In the regular season they ended up being the 6th seed, and this year they were the 8th seed.
They were the 1 seed not too long ago.
Yeah, that
was 2020, right?
That was a couple years ago.
No, 2020 was they were the 5th seed when they made the finals.
Yeah, so they've been very iffy in the regular season overall.
I think they're the 1 seed last year.
No, they weren't.
Are you sure about that?
They were
Game 7 was in Miami.
Pretty sure they were.
They were the freaking play-in team, dude.
No, not this season that just ended.
Oh.
The one before.
Oh, they were the 6th seed after they made the finals, and then they were the 1 or 2 seed.
They were the 1.
Were they the 1?
Yeah, they were the 1.
Yeah, they were the
shitting
1.
on them.
They were the 1 seed, and then they ended up being the 8th seed again. Yeah, they're so weird. I don't know. I think they had one of the worst off seasons this year out of every team. Ugh, 45.5. I'm gonna say a very light over. They could squeak in with 46.
I definitely thought you were going to say under on that.
They can squeak in with 46.
Squeak in is wild. But
Squeakers.
I really don't know because their roster is pretty nasty right now. They lost Gabe Vincent. They didn't get Dame. They lost Max Strus. And to show for it, they got back Thomas Bryant, R.J. Hampton, and Josh Richardson.
They drafted JJJ though.
They did draft Jaime Jaquez Jr.
I think he is too.
And then, I mean, Jovic has looked good in FIBA.
He looked really nice in FIBA.
So that's a positive, but at the same time, with the Heat, is Jimmy gonna try in the regular season? Is Jimmy gonna play? How do injuries affect all of it? So there's such a weird team that anything could really happen. They could explode for like the 4 seed. They could be a play-in team again. You never know with them. So yeah, I'm gonna have to hit a very light over with them.
I'm hitting the over. I think this team has proven to us plenty of times what they're capable of. Even if they don't hit 45 or 46 wins, like this team's going to be in the playoffs. I still think they'll hit the over. I'm not super disgusted with their roster. It definitely didn't get better, but it's just going to take some guys proving themselves, pretty much, so like Hampton being able to play a backup role. But I think like the big Jimmy Butler's 34 now. He's still playing pretty much at the top of his game, but like if Adebayo doesn't have like an absolute like a 4 steps up from last season, like the last few seasons, like he's got to take the reins. He's got to be better. Hero is I'm not, when he just said he's like, when you're talking about who's got next in the league, he's right up there with those guys. I'm not sure he is.
No,
but,
he's not.
So I'm not expecting, like, I think you're going to get what you've always gotten out of Hero, and which is what they need. They need offense, and they're going to miss that for a good chunk of that in the playoffs. Yeah. So, but it really comes down to Adebayo. Like, he's got to be a lot better than what his ceiling's been at recently. But I'm still going to hit the over. I got faith in this team. I got faith in Jimmy Butler, so that's where I'm at.
All right, I like it. Hero might have to end up being a hero. You never know. But the hero of this team, the Orlando Magic, is Paolo Banchero. And on this channel, I've been very high on Paolo's game. I've made some very bold predictions, even saying that the Magic could make the play-in, and I stand by that. The Magic's betting odds are 36.5 games. 36.5. That's pretty solid. I'm also going to take the over on the Magic just because I think they're like right around where the Hawks kind of are in terms of their ranking in the division. But I think that if they are going to make the play-in, that they're going to need to get over. Paolo looks really nice. I'm expecting a huge year out of him. Franz Wagner looks really nice. He looked great in FIBA World Champion. Markelle Fultz is a solid starter for them here and there when they need him to start. Anthony Black was their rookie, correct, that they just drafted?
And Jet Howard. They could help with some minutes off the bench. You got Jalen Suggs locking down on defense. I like the Magic's roster. I think that they can get over 36.5 wins. I'm also going to go with the over on the Magic. I think they end up making the play-in this year. I don't think it's that bold of a prediction to say so either. They have expressed interest in trying to trade Cole Anthony, especially with how many guards they have with Suggs, Fultz, Gary Harris, and Anthony Black now. They picked up Joe Ingles in the offseason, which honestly I like. It's kind of a weird pickup to most, but they really don't have shooting on that team, and Joe Ingles really does help with that, and he's a solid vet in general. They didn't really pick up anyone else besides him. Overall, I really like their team a lot. I think Paolo's going to be he's going to have a pretty big jump this season. I love Franz Wagner. He kind of just does it all. He's a solid playmaker. He's a good shooter. He's a good bucket getter. Amazing at finishing. Even a solid defender. Also, I'm really high on Markelle Fultz. I think last season, when Fultz came back from his injury, that's when things started to really click with the Magic. He's a very solid playmaker for them. He just gets to his spots really easily, and his defense is really nice. I'm really high on Jalen Suggs. I wrote an article about Jalen Suggs. You could check it out in the description. Link will be in the description. He's an amazing defender. He's been getting better on the offensive end year after year, especially after struggling. His three-point shot slowly coming around. I think their team is just taking some time to gel. They're still a pretty raw team overall, but the more and more they play, it seems like the better their guys get. And even Anthony Black should help. He's looked really good so far, so I think they're going to make the play, and I'm going with the over.
A lot of fair points made. I think you could go really either way with this team. I'm gonna take the under, but I think it could just as easily go over. A lot of good young guys, a lot of unproven things about this team. I know he just said a lot to do with how this team is gonna gel. They're guard heavy, so I agree. I think a trade's coming. We'll see how that affects the team, the chemistry, and all that. And the East, the bottom half of the East is pretty open, so like a play-in spot isn't out of the picture for sure, but I don't know, I just haven't seen much from this team as a whole that makes me believe in them. But like their guys individually, I think they have everything it takes. I just haven't seen it yet, so I'll hit the under.
All right. We're going to move it up to the A. It's a little chilly out here in Chicago. Might be that ice tray. Who knows? Going on to the...
The joke was so bad.
Shut up.
It was so bad.
What do you think? That was pretty bad.
I wasn't a fan.
Moving on to the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks betting odds are at 42.5 wins this season. The Atlanta Hawks have probably the most hated player in the league in Trae Young. Could also be the most disrespected player in the league for that exact same reason. DeJounte Murray, for whatever reason, he just became an absolute troll during the offseason last year.
Yeah,
He did.
Yeah, I even had to go at my boy Paolo. So, 42.5 for the Hawks. This team has been, they've always been around that 5 to 9 seed range for the past few years. 42.5. Ah, man. I'll say under because I think they're just going to get 42. They're either going to get 43 or 42, in my opinion. They're going to be very close to this mark. So I'm going to have to go under. I think Trae Young's still going to have a great year. Bogdan played well for Serbia in FIBA. DeJounte's DeJounte. You know you're going to get out of him. But I'm just going to have to say under the Hawks just because I'm not too big of a fan of their entire team. Plus, I think the Magic are going to steal some games from them this year. So, under.
This one's also tough. It's kind of like the Heat. Like, don't really know what you're going to get with them. I do agree, like, 42, 43 sounds about right. I'm gonna go with the over. It's 42.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the over. Give him a nice 43 or 44. I think Trae Young is one of the most underrated players in the league. He all off season I'm seeing him in talks with like Jalen Brunson, Jamal Murray, and Tyrese Halliburton, and like he's better than them. He's simply better than them. I think DeJounte Murray is also a bit underappreciated because his numbers went down, like the counting stats went down, but his impact, in my opinion, didn't. Like he shot the ball a lot better this season. He just didn't have as big of a role. The Hawks lost John Collins. It's not going to change their team that much. If anything, it could end up helping them because John Collins was pretty bad last season, and it opens up the floor for Jalen Johnson to actually prove what he can do. And I think he's pretty good. The flashes he's had, he's looked pretty good. I don't like their roster overall. I think their roster is pretty lacking in general, especially when you come to the bench. Their bench is generally like a lot of the same kind of player. It's like wing players. Like you have Bogdan, you have Sadiq Bey, you have AJ Griffin. So their bench is really just a lot of the same type of player. And then their backup point guard is their rookie Kobe Buffkin. So you're going to be relying on Trae and DeJounte heavily to be running that point guard position. So overall, I think their starters are nice. Onyeka Okongwu I hope he soon starts because I think he's also really nice. But they're going to be a tricky team. I'm going to take the slight over, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get an under. Their roster overall is pretty underwhelming in my opinion.
Unless my sources are wrong here, I think we're looking over the fact that they added FIBA legend Patty Mills. That's the backup point guard right there. But anyways, I'm hitting the over. I think this team now being able to mesh Murray and Young for a year, they're both going to be better. They got good young guys, DeAndre Hunter. I think he'll have a step up, a good two-way player. We've seen this team be successful before, and it's mostly the same team with just younger guys now. And then they got Patty Mills and Wesley Matthews, who are seasoned vets who can lead these younger guys. Even if those two guys don't get minutes, they have a lot to teach the other younger guys. So I think as long as the chemistry goes up, which I think it has to have had gone up over the offseason, I can see this team hitting the over. So yeah, I like this team.
All right. Now we're going to take it to another young team with not as many vets on the squad, the Charlotte Hornets. And the Charlotte Hornets, they've had a lot of off-the-court issues with their players.
Honestly, it's sad, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. They just never really had that veteran leadership either.
Yeah.
Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward.
I'm not leading shit.
You don't think Gordon Hayward is a great veteran leader?
Boy,
Maybe not for that team.
Games, bro.
Yeah, not for that team he wasn't, but
Mason Plumlee.
Again, not for that team he wasn't a good vet. The betting odds for the Charlotte Hornets
31.5.
31.5. In a previous video when we talked about Miles Bridges, I'll link it up here on how he's going to impact this team now that he's coming back. I've said that before he left, they were like very close to that playing spot. 31.5. This team, they're very interesting. They can do well if they're healthy. I don't know. I want to take the over, but some teams just have to be bad this year. So I think the Hornets might have to be that team. Get Miles Bridges back in the groove of things with the Hornets. If they do click right away and LaMelo Ball stays healthy and all those guys come together, Brandon Miller's their number 2 draft pick. If he plays well, sure, they can get the over. But I'm not that high on Brandon Miller. And I think it might take a little bit more for Miles Bridges to get back into it. And LaMelo Ball always seems to have nagging injuries here and there. Might be the BBB shoes, who knows? They ruined our boy Lonzo's career, but I'll take the under on the Charlotte Hornets this year.
The Charlotte Hornets. I mean, they got 27 wins last season. I mean, they are adding Miles Bridges.
They're getting rid of Kai Jones, though.
Man.
Man.
I could see both again.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's so weird because some teams do have to be bad.
Yeah.
Because, like, but I could also see the East being, like, the entire NBA just being, like, super close in general.
Yeah, the bottom half of the East is very much like
It's
going to be a dogfight.
It's
down there.
trenches down
Yeah.
there.
I am gonna go with the under. I know I've seen a lot of people, especially on Twitter, they're pretty high on the Hornets. I don't see it. A lot of people want to say, oh, when Miles Bridges was playing with them originally, they made the play and all that. Yeah, they did, but like the East was a lot worse than you had Indiana with Sabonis making the play. Like, the East was pretty bad.
Respect Sabonis.
As the one option on Indiana, I won't. So I think the East got way better since then. I think a lot of teams that were bad then have also gotten a lot better since then. I'm not too sold on Miles Bridges being fully back to his peak, what he was before, so I gotta see how that works. Their offense was pretty disgusting to watch last year. I don't see too much change. I could see it being a little bit better now, but like I feel like it's gonna be about the same. I don't think their coach is that good either. I don't like Steve Clifford as a coach. Their defense is pretty iffy in my opinion too. They don't even have really like a backup point guard. They lost Dennis Smith Jr. in the offseason to the Brooklyn Nets. So your backup point guard right now is looking like it's going to be Nick Smith Jr., a rookie, and I believe he was either a second round pick or a late first round pick. So kind of relying pretty heavily on him. I like Mark Williams a lot. I think he's a solid big to have. I think he'll work well with LaMelo. I think Brandon Miller's going to be better than some people think, especially with all the bust labels put on him. But not a believer in this team. I don't really see what other people see. I think they're going to tank again to try and actually get a full rebuild going instead of just aiming for the plan like they've been doing.
Seems like that franchise has been in rebuild ever since they went back to Charlotte.
Tough.
31.5 is pretty low. If you give me a healthy LaMelo Ball, this team's hitting the over. I think that's pretty much all it comes down to. I think it's important, or it's a big thing for Miles Bridges that he didn't miss all of this time because he was injured. He just missed the time. So like his game really shouldn't have taken a step back. Really, obviously it's different not playing on an NBA court, but I don't see it shouldn't take much for him to get back in with this team. I mean, picking up Brandon Miller and Amari Bailey are two good young guys. They still have PJ Washington, who's a solid 4. Mark Williams is a decent 5. Gordon Hayward is probably still going to be your starting 3, so he's probably going to give you solid minutes. Like, this team's not awful, and if you put LaMelo Ball at the helm of this team, he could easily get them to over 31 wins, I think, or 30 to get to 32 wins. So I'll hit the over for them, but I also don't like their coach. I don't think he's pretty like that's the one thing that's holding me back from this team is I don't see how he could coach them to be that good.
They fired him and hired him again.
Yeah, but I still think you give LaMelo Ball the keys and he's healthy, you should get them to 32 wins.
Oh, also prediction: if they do decide to tank, I believe they move on from Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward.
Oh yeah, that's 100%. No reason to keep those guys around.
Right. Moving on to the worst team in the league. I don't think there's any question about it. The Washington Wizards. Their betting odds are 24.5 games. And I'm going to go with the under. I'm just going to say it straight up. I don't think they're going to get more than 24 and a half.
Someone's got to be pretty
Yeah.
bad. Someone's got to be worse than that too, for all these other teams to get wins.
Right. Yeah, I think the Wizards are going to be awful. 20 wins max, maybe. They could get 21, but yeah, right around 20 wins, I think, is where they're going to end up. Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole are their top two players. I expect big years out of both of them just because they have a larger role, but that team is just nasty. I really don't see how they're beating other teams in the NBA. They're going to have to play like teams that just have off nights or injuries or just other bad teams in the league. Yeah, Jordan Poole might pop off for 25 a game. Kyle Kuzma might pop off for 25 a game. I like Kuz. Jordan Poole, I'm okay with him. I think he's going to have a good year. But yeah, this Wizards team, dog, just terrible. I don't like it. Under.
I'm also going to go with the under on the Wizards. 24 and a half it sounds so crazy, but I mean, you had teams last year with, I think, like 18 wins, so it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm going with the under. They're clearly going in a rebuild mode. It's going to be a pool party for sure this season. I'm excited to see how Jordan Poole does. I think he'll do great, honestly. No pressure anymore. No championship aspirations. Just let him go hoop. Let's get that bag talk going over there. Kuzma's gonna look nice.
On and off the court. Fashion model Kuzma.
They got some interesting pieces. They got some young guys from the Warriors in the Jordan Poole trade when they got rid of Chris Paul. They also drafted Bilal Coulibaly. He's kind of, I think he's more of like a project than he is like a solidified player. So I think it's gonna take some time for him to actually show what he's doing. He looks really nice on the defensive end so far, but we'll see if the offense comes around. Johnny Davis is on that team. Looked pretty bad so far. Hasn't really shown much. So hopefully this season he can. Denny Avdia. I hope they use Denny Avdia more. I like what I saw what they did with him last season towards the end. They're letting him play make a bit more, giving the ball to him in general, letting it run through him. So I think what they should do is just like test out like how they want to run their team for the future, potentially see what like certain guys could do, especially with how young they are. And but yeah, I'm gonna go with the under, and Tyus Jones will also have a very nice year.
Under. I just don't like, even if you had to argue that this team's roster wasn't that bad, there's no reason for them to hit the over. There's no reason that, like, the front office is probably begging these guys to lose like freaking 70 games. Like, there's absolutely no reason for this team to try to compete. They just don't have the roster. I mean, yeah, Kuz and Poole are going to have good seasons, sure. And they actually added decent vets, Gallinari and Jones. They still have Gibson, like guys who know the league. But, like, there is just absolutely no reason for this team to compete. Like, these guys aren't taking them anywhere if they snuck into the play-in. Like, there's just nothing for them. So I'm going with the under. They're going to tank heavy.
And that'll wrap it up for the Southeast Division. A lot of young teams fighting to start being better in the NBA, fighting for those playoff spots the same way that we're fighting for your attention every day here on YouTube, every day on Full Court Press. We're that rising team, baby. We're going to be big one day.
We're the Thunder.
We are the Thunder.
No comment.
Yeah,
Say it.
We are the Thunder.
Yes.
All right, we're the Thunder.
We're
on
Chet,
the rise.
We've got Josh
Giddy.
Giddy up. And we've got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
You guys see that we're on the rise. We're only getting better here, and big things are coming for this channel come NBA season time. So stick around, and if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, which most of you are, hit that subscribe button. Dunk on the like button. That's the best thing that you can do for the YouTube algorithm. Until next time, peace.